Next topic, Mr. Speaker. Sige, ito na po, confidential funds. Simulan po muna natin ang proposal for 2024. Since House leaders have already had a position na dapat, at least, no, while ako, of course, basta po confidential or intelligence fund yan, mataas talaga ang ating pamantayan and very vigilant tayo dyan. Pero granted, Mr. Speaker, na kapag may confidential or intelligence fund, gagamitin lang siya for the defense of our territory, para sa national territory natin, Mr. Speaker. Ang confidential fund ba ng OVP, as proposed for 2024, is this to defend the West Philippine Sea?
Sir Speaker, Your Honor. The Office of the Vice President, in its request and proposal for another confidential fund for calendar year 2024, is consistent with its reason in requesting the said fund since last year, which aims to use the fund for the safe implementation of its programs and activities. And through its office, the OVP aims to bring its programs to other areas, and with a vision to target poverty reduction and threats to peace and order and achieve sustainable development. And in support of these goals, surveillance activities will be undertaken to assess security threats and ensure successful implementation of the project. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, from that long response, ang makuha po natin doon, hindi. Hindi po in line sa intent ng House ang proposal ng OVP na manghingi ng confidential fund for 2024. Kasi Mr. Speaker, ang mga binabanggit na programs, Medical and Burial Assistance Program, Food Assistance, Libreng Sakay, Magnegosyo Taday. Tingin ko, Mr. Speaker, wala naman dong directly related sa defense ng West Philippine Sea, Mr. Speaker. Kaya I think it would be prudent for the House to reject the proposal of the OVP for confidential fund, Mr. Speaker. Kasunod,
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, if I may interject, for the record, confidential fund is not only used for the West Philippine Sea. It is used for monitoring and surveillance of whatever programs of the Office of the Vice President. And to make a point, the Office of the Vice President is not just a spare tire of the President, but is part of the policy making body of the President, and with the desire of the Office of the Vice President to propose policies that are data-driven. Information from the ground are very vital, Mr. Speaker.
Sige. Mr. Speaker, mamaya babalikan natin yan kung sobrang justified ba talaga ang confidential fund ng OVP for its programs. Pero Mr. Speaker, malinaw at this point na it seems that our sponsor is diverging from the intent of the leaders of the House na wag na pong bigyan ng confidential fund ang mga ahensya, lalo na kung hindi naman related sa defense ng ating national sovereignty ang kanilang proposal para gamitin ang confidential fund, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, if I may interject, this representation did not mention that we do not consider the issue in West Philippine Sea as an activity where confidential fund is used. But what I was saying is that it is not solely for the West Philippine Sea, and other use of confidential fund is not limited to West Philippine Sea, but also includes surveillance and monitoring that is affecting the national security of the country. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, nabanggit na nga po natin na meron ng intent ang House leader sa granted na may mga bibigyan ng confidential or intelligence fund, saan lang ba dapat? Pero Mr. Speaker, nag-i-insist pa rin ang OVP na dapat bigyan po sila. Mr. Speaker, meron po bang mga libreng sakay na gagawin natin sa West Philippine Sea o sa mga contested na mga isla? Tingin po natin, Mr. Speaker, wala naman eh. Kaya Mr. Speaker, still, hindi talaga justified na mabigyan ng confidential fund ang OVP. So sana po ay makinig. Kasi po, Mr. Speaker, nabanggit na rin naman ng OVP sa Senado, hindi naman pala urgent ang request for confidential fund. They can live without confidential fund, Mr. Speaker. Pero ngayon, it seems na kumakapit pa rin hanggat kaya ang OVP doon sa confidential fund na proposal for 2024. Kaya Mr. Speaker, para matasan natin kung okay ba ang proposal for next year, check po natin yung ngayon, Mr. Speaker. For 2023, nakapagpasa ba ng accomplishment report ang OVP quarterly sa atin, sa House of Representatives, regarding the outputs ng paggamit ng confidential fund?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I have already answered that earlier.
So, Mr. Speaker, Ibig sabihin po, para sa libreng sakay, kailangan po ng confidential fund para magamit po ang funds for the libreng sakay program effectively. Paano po yun, Mr. Speaker? Ang mga sumasakay ba, ini-screen yan kung mga former rebels sila o mga lawless elements sila? Ganun po ba, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the proposal for confidential fund is not for the implementation of libreng sakay, but for its monitoring and surveillance, because the OVP aims to bring its programs to other areas with a vision to target poverty reduction, threats to peace and order, and therefore, again, it's not directly used for the implementation of libreng sakay, but it is used for assessment, surveillance of the implementation of the program. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, yan din po ang sinasabi ng ibang mga ahensya. Halimbawa po ang mga nagkakonduct ng mga assistance programs, tapos mismo, Mr. Speaker, ang mga intelligence agencies. So kung yan po ang natitirang rason ng OVP to justify confidential funds, again, redundant talaga, Mr. Speaker. Tapos sobrang inefficient, Mr. Speaker, na para magawa ang mga programang ito, kailangan ng napakalaking confidential fund. Nasa 20%, Mr. Speaker, ng pondo para sa good governance projects ay confidential. Mr. Speaker, napakaraming mga kababayan natin nangangailangan ng assistance. Kahit po hindi tayo gumamit ng confidential fund to identify sino-sino ang nangangailangan, alam po natin lahat dito sa ating mga distrito, sa ating mga constituents, sino ang mga dapat bigyan. Kaya Mr. Speaker, kung makakakuha tayo ng kopya ng accomplishment report, sana po, no, kung proud naman ng OVP, paano ginamit ang accomplishment at yung confidential fund nito, Mr. Speaker, edi we dare the OVP, ilabas po ang accomplishment report. Hindi pa nga po natin hinihingi yung exact na paggamit ng confidential fund. Kahit accomplishment report na lang po, Mr. Speaker, na naging effective ang Libre Sakay program, ang Magnegosyo Taday program, naging effective ito dahil sa confidential fund. Would the OVP provide us copies of the accomplishment reports?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the OVP would be very willing to submit and give the accomplishment report of the programs of the Office of the Vice President, which includes the Libreng Sakay program that has been mentioned by His Honor.
Sige, Mr. Speaker, dapat po sa accomplishment report reflected doon. Ano ang naging value ng confidential fund? Ano ang diferensya kung may confidential fund o wala? Kasi Mr. Speaker, as it seems, it actually won't make a big difference, Mr. Speaker, lalo kung ang daming mamamayan nangangailangan. Kaya Mr. Speaker, gina-justify ang paggamit ng confidential fund dahil ito naman daw ay galing sa contingent fund. Mr. Speaker, sa provisions for contingent fund, ano ba dyan ang mga examples ng pwedeng paggamitan ng contingent fund?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, first, thank you for the short lecture on the definition of confidential fund. And I respect that opinion of His Honor. While the question on contingent fund lies on the Office of the DBM in terms of its technicality, for purposes of presentation, allow me to read the definition of contingent fund. Contingent fund covers the funding requirements of new or urgent activities or projects of national government agencies, GOCCs, and LGUs that need to be implemented or paid during the year, such as, but not limited to the following: legal obligation of the government arising from final and executory decisions of competent authorities, such as compromise agreements, arbitral awards, mediation, settlement agreement, and professional services in connection thereto. Second, requirements of newly created offices. And third, deficiencies in the appropriations for local and external travels of the President of the Philippines. Mr. Speaker.